It is just a huge honor for me today to be back in the studio a year after the pandemic. And who would have been a better guest and a better everything than Tanya Schulz Peterson, DDS, who's down here climbing mountains on vacation, spring break. She's from Burnsville, Minnesota. And my gosh, I'm so excited. So her dad was a dentist, so she's obviously carrying some genetic thing going on. Is it a recessive gene or a dominant gene? Well, it's dominant. Yeah, and you have two kids. Well, they been afflicted with this disease?
Not yet. They're in high school right now.
Her father started the practice in 1970, and she worked there part-time while in college and decided she wanted to go into healthcare. Her favorite part of Health of the City Dental is caring with generations of people from her area. She was born and raised in Burnsville, Minnesota, attended the College of St. Benedict and St. So does that mean you're Catholic or Catholic? Lutheran. And my mom, I don't, whenever she say someone was Lutheran, I go, Mom, aren't those the Catholics that can read? And she'd slap me right. It was so funny. I love that joke. So she attended the College of St. Benedict and St. Cloud University, where she attained her Bachelor of Science degree in Biomedical Science. She graduated from the University of Minnesota School of Dentistry in 97. And did it ever get accredited?
Hope so.
Her practice was started as Schulz Family Dentistry by her father in 70, and she's worked in all areas of the office since 87. That's where I saw the 87. That's the year I graduated.
Yeah.
And that's when you got a job in dentistry as
a dental assistant.
A dental assistant. Okay. I knew I saw an 87 in there. She enjoys volunteering her time to donate to dental services in the community. She's dedicated to providing excellent dental care in a caring, family-friendly environment. She strives to make her patients comfortable by providing personalized care. My gosh, I could read or I could go on and on and on. And she likes the Gophers, right?
Yep.
And she's a member of the St. Paul District Dental Society, the Minnesota Dental Association, but she pronounces it Minnesota, like that. Minnesota, like Fargo. And the American Dental Association Spear Study Club, that's right up the street. Seattle Study Club, that's in Seattle, Washington. That's Aquoise. She's a regular volunteer with Mission Outpost Dental Clinic and Mission of Mercy. So you're a real profound athlete. You're down here hiking and tell me all the things you've done athletically.
So, well, water skiing has been my passion. So competed in the figure 8 barefoot tournament and won that as female. I did the first female barefoot pyramid with a girlfriend of mine, Shanna. We went to nationals for that. So water skiing's been my thing. Anything on the water, boating, paddleboarding, cross-country skiing, you name it.
I've only seen one person barefoot water ski in my life, and it was my roommate in dental school, George Rui. We'd go up to St. Joe, Missouri, and I could barely get up on two and never managed one, and that guy didn't need any.
Yep.
And man, that is a
Thank you.
That is a hell of a feat because no one else on the lake could do it. And that guy could do it he could do it for like an hour. And that is just amazing. But my gosh. So you're, I know women hate to give away their age, but let's just say you're
50.
Well, my gosh, thanks for saying that. I don't know why women.
I don't care.
You know, it's kind of funny. Like women will have a stretch mark from a baby, and they'll like hide it. If a man had a stretch mark from a baby, he'd cut all of his clothes off.
He earned it.
Show you every scar, every injury they've ever had. It's the first thing they show you. But I think it's so damn cool. I mean, you lived half a century, so I want to get right down to the great. They all want to know if the dentist took the vaccine.
Yes.
Would you take the vaccine today?
I have taken the vaccine.
You have taken it.
Both doses.
Both doses? Mm-hmm. And was it, which one it was?
We had Pfizer.
It was Pfizer? And why did you take it knowing full well that now Bill Gates has a chip in your head and is remote controlling you around?
I just believe in the medical research, and I get the flu vaccine. So based on science and technology, I believe do anything you can not to contract it.
And what give us a COVID update from Minnesota, because you're right next to Canada, and none of my dentist friends have gotten it yet in Canada. Canada, I feel sorry for them because it's the same size as California in people. It's basically, if you're into economics like I am in dentistry, if you got the California Dental Association numbers for the state of California, it's going to be the same in Canada. If you got the Canadian numbers, it's going to be the same. They're both 10% of the population. So it's kind of like the United States has got a California lane on the top and a Canada, California thing laying on the side. But you're up there. How far of a drive is? Oh, well, you're not that close to Canada. How far?
No, we're in Minneapolis, suburb of Minneapolis.
Minneapolis, Minnesota. And that's where my sister left high school, joined a Carmelite monastery in Lake Elmo. You heard of that?
Oh, yeah.
And I tell those people, and you're not going to believe this, you're going to think I'm crazy or my thermometer's broken, but several times I left Phoenix and it'd say it was 80 degrees. And when I got to her monastery, I had gone down 100 degrees. And then I had to make it a 4 hours and 1 minute to make it a business expense. So the two victims were either Pete Frechette at Patterson Dental Company. I go bother him for 4 hours, 1 minute, or I go to 3M. And you remember the little 3M genius, Niels Bohr? Her name was Samitra. Did you ever meet her?
Never met her. She's in my backyard, though.
Oh, my gosh. She would take me to the grease board. And I'd tell her what they were saying on Dental Town, and she would take me to a grease board and just melt my brain like butter with a deal. And I want to say one thing about that. I don't want to get off tangent, but when you go to America, America is a very cynical country and nobody believes anybody, and the trust is really, really low. I'm talking about in dentistry, And when you go to the largest dental meeting in the world, Europe, America is fragmented. Every state has a different state meeting. It's all fragmented and blown up and weird. But Europe, they just have one massive meeting every other year in Cologne, Germany, which is the coolest city. It was the farthest outreach of the Roman Empire, and they still got the walls around it. And they do it 2 years because that's the product cycle of all these companies. And when all the dentists in Europe got there, and say you own the company and your dad started it and you're second generation and your kids, and you came out with this bonding agent, well, every dentist in Europe intelligently wants to talk to you. You made it. Your name's on it. In America, they're like, well, I don't trust that guy. He's selling something. I'm like, well, what are you, a volunteer dentist at a public health clinic? I mean, you moron, you sell shit all day long. But when the dentist sells it, he's holier than thou. But when a dental company, and my dad, when we were little, every vacation, we go to like a Six Flags over something, or we go visit a manufacturing plant. So when I started my own company, media company, every month I'd put a feature of the company that makes us look so good. If I took away about 500 companies, we'd be sitting outside on a rug with some stuff from Home Depot, right? And the only reason we look amazing with digital radiography and apex locators and 300 RPM 9 days, all these companies, and every time I put one on the company, they're like, well, they're selling something. What is this, a rag? I'm not even going to read it because there's a guy on the cover selling. I mean, dentists in America, they're just so bizarre. And then so here you have to go to a middleman. You have to go to some famous lecturer, and you know who they all are. And they make a living being the middleman between the science companies and the dentists just in America. The Europeans don't even want to know what they're freaking saying because they know this guy would know the least. This is all they do. And then I would take those videos, quotes, things from the message board, and I would show it what the biggest gurus are saying about your like 3M product. And I flew to Liechtenstein and showed to the 80 PhD researchers at Ivaclair in Liechtenstein. And they just roll their eyes. And then they would spend an hour with organic chemistry just showing how, but it just one famous speaker say, well, what, I don't like acetone, I like glutathione. It's like they just feign expertise. They know nothing what they're talking about. And if you think that we got this wrong, I mean, we'll go look at the societies of Denmark, Sweden, Germany, Austria, and then come back to St. Louis and tell me who might, well, look at the cars. The Germans make a Mercedes-Benz, we make Chrysler. I mean, don't be afraid to go to the top. And with my 4 kids, they loved it. Every time we go on vacation, I mean, they've gone to the ADEC plant where on this end is
I've been there.
Yeah.
It's cool.
And my boys have seen every dental manufacturing plant in 50 countries. And I think they learn more at Glidewell than they do at the whole ADA convention. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, it was just amazing, but more on so many. Um, give us a COVID update. Have you resumed your pre-COVID numbers, or are you still suffering from the pandemic?
No, we're back to normal, back to full schedules.
And,
Numbers are good.
and
Patients
how long did
are
that take?
receptive to, grateful that we stayed open to see emergencies and take care of them when we were closed for 8 weeks. But yeah, full hygiene schedules, and it's good.
Wow. Well, that means you're good. Because I would doubt well, is your city an outlier economically? I mean, do you have what's the population of your town?
65,000?
And is there like some recession proof one factory town where you're booming, or are you just middle America?
Middle America.
Middle America. And have you ever heard of Lake Elmo?
I have.
Huh. And their monastery doesn't have heat.
What?
Well, I mean, not electricity, heat.
Oh,
I
so
mean,
wood and
wood. Yeah, they burn shit. Crazy times. Well, I don't mean to be rude, but how do you do it? I mean, what's the coldest it's ever been in your lifetime in there?
Oh, we had the polar vortex 3 years ago, so that was negative 45.
And were you out there barefoot skiing?
I happened to be on vacation that week, so I got lucky. But yeah, they closed the schools, and they pretty much shut everything down because you couldn't go out.
Well, I asked you to be on the show. You didn't ask me, and the reason you're my victim is because when I was in dental school, all the people, boys and girls, they all said dentistry was a man's profession, like your dad. And then just like your dad turned into you go into those dental schools, they're all half women. And I think it would be insane for me to know the challenges that a woman dentist might have versus a man dentist, because I'm not a woman. And the fact that you're 50 years old, proud of it, second generation dentist, no heels bar. There's a lot of girls in, like a quarter of our listeners are in dental kindergarten school. You got a lot of young girls, and they don't want to listen to old, fat, bald guys like me or your dad. They want to listen to you. And they have so many questions. I mean, should they specialize? Should they be a partner? You're a partner with Heidi. So I want to start with this first question. Do you think it's a male profession, or do you think it's a non-gender profession?
I think it's evolving more to even the genders. My class was a third women, so we were definitely minority, and study club has been more male dominated. But over the years, and through SPEAR and through 50-50 now, Heidi's class was 50-50 female. A lot more women have come into the profession. I think it's a fantastic career if you want to have a family. I think it's fantastic to have a partner, so that you can still spend time with your children and be available, but bring home a good living, and it allows the freedom to support yourself. So that was the wisdom I got from my mom, who was a stay-at-home mom of 4. She said, make your own money so you can make your own choices down the road. And
do you think that came from somewhere? I mean, well,
it came from my mom not finishing her degree and being a stay-at-home mom, and obviously relying on my dad financially. So I didn't want that for myself. My husband,
because of pride. Well, it can be tied to economic violence. I mean, that's what they call it. I mean, if someone is desperate, people do desperate things. Like if you're addicted to a drug in this country, they want to treat it with morality and arrest you and throw you in a cage. They make everything illegal, so they got to do all these crimes. They're victims of their addiction, and a lot of women are abused because they for financial reasons. They have to, they have to stay in a dysfunctional marriage that they hate because they don't know what to do. But you wanted to be that independent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is your husband good with that?
Oh, he's very good with that. Yeah. So it's been more of a partnership with the family, raising the kids, with him working full time and myself working full time. It's been a good balance, and I think good role models for our kids too. that mom and dad both can work.
And you have 2 kids. And how old are they?
15 and 17.
15, 17, boy, girl?
Yep.
Oh, one's a boy, one's a girl?
Older boy,
God, you're
girl.
the American family. 2 kids, one of each. That is so cool. And your Bachelor of Science degree was Biomedical Science. I already know you're a nerd tech science geek. Yeah. Was that always interested in science?
Oh, no. I thought I wasn't going to be a dentist until I worked in the office and thought, no, medical would be a good career path. But I was thinking education, accounting, a pilot, child psychology. I had a number of different paths I tried until I ended up working in my dad's office and thought, no, medical. Volunteered at the hospital, decided hospital. I wanted to build a relationship with my patients and see the generations that my dad had seen. And that's how our practice has been built on referrals.
And God, that makes me think so many things because Arizona is ground zero for DSOs.
Right.
And I was all for, I know you're not supposed to talk about religion, politics, sex, and violence, but our governor, he can't run for re-election. So when people are saying he's doing all this stuff for political stuff, I don't even know what they're talking about. But the problem was in Arizona, they had a hard time finding nurses. And they'd go find some nurse in Texas or Minnesota that said, yeah, I'd love to go there, but I got to pass those boards and blah, blah, blah. And they were finding it easier to get nurses in Ireland to move to a different country. And Governor Dew said, this is insane. If you are licensed for anything, nurse, dentist, architecture, if some other state licensed you and we license it, you're good. And because of that, Arizona, 18.7% of all the dentists work for a DSO. And and I'm not throwing any DSOs under bus because I know all markets segment. I mean, look at housing. You could have a mansion, 5-bedroom, 3-bedroom, apartment, condo, trailer, live in a van down by the river. You look at cars, you have a $300,000 Lamborghini and a $10,000 used Dodge Dart. The market segment, but I would say out here though, what you just said is the absolute what I see that, when a big DSO goes across the street, you're just going to have a line of patients coming to your office and say, well, I went in there the first time and Dr. A said I had 4 cavities. And then I went back to do them and he's no longer there. And Dr. B said I had 3 cavities and now I'm confused. And then I went in to get my cleaning. I said, can I see Shirley? Because I really like Shirley and she's no longer there. And I'm like, their average doc in their box is there about a year. And your dad, you're there a second generation. And hopefully one of these 2 cursed kids might be the third. So if your dad saw him that's where I'm at now. So when you got out of school, did you, when you graduated, did you go work for your dad?
Part-time.
Part-time?
And then part-time in another office because I didn't know if I would like practicing with my dad. But after 6 months, it was a great fit. And then left the second practice, taught at the University of Minnesota in the restorative department while I built my practice. And we
built your practice
with my dad.
Built your practice in your dad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so then we had 15 years together to practice, and he was a great mentor and inspiration.
Okay, now your dad is still alive, so I don't want him to ever come down to Arizona and beat the crap out of me or anything. But I get this email a lot, and I don't know your relationship with your dad or how it works, but a lot of kids became a dentist because their mom was a dentist. And it's your mom. It's the love of your life. And it's your dad. And, they go back there and they got a dental degree and your dad's doing Sargenti root canals. Or he doesn't believe in 4 bicuspid extraction and he's expanding but he's doing like 3 or 4 things that you don't find any research for. And I remember one time in Kansas, I told this, I was out here and I told this guy, I said, well, you know what? I got an endodontist. I know 2 endodontists. We'll just go have dinner and it'll be a private conversation. And the guy brought him his root canals and the endodontist just totally saying, well, okay, now if this one right here, if the Arizona State Board of Dental Examiners saw it, your dad would not be allowed to ever do a root canal again. You know what I mean? And blah, 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 blah. So, and I don't know if it's different in boys and girls, but I assume daddy's little girl is a much deeper relationship than it was with me and my dad. My dad was Howard Eugene Ferran. He named me Howard Eugene Ferran II. It was so confusing. Everybody called him Gene from his middle name, and they just called me a mistake. But what advice would you give to that little 25-year-old girl that's daddy's girl, and daddy is daddy's her idol, mentor, why she's a dentist, but he's out to lunch in 1 or 2 or 3 areas in this common business that you're working in? How do you approach that?
Well, I think you have to stay very active in continuing education and do it together because dentistry is evolving. Unfortunately, my dad was president of the peer review, so he was very in depth in the standard of care. So, fortunately, I didn't have to deal with that. We practiced similar, and
Well, that's it. You said do the CE together.
do the CE together. He also didn't tell me he was happy I went into dentistry until it was at least my 3rd or 4th year because he wanted me to choose my own path. And I did. So you cannot go into this profession on somebody else's hopes and dreams. You have to commit to it because it's a journey.
Yeah.
Continual learning.
Yeah. And I wanted all my boys to do their own path. And I am so lucky, knock on wood, that as of today, none of them are in jail. And it's been a big deal for us. But so back to mother, dad, another huge problem. So did you end up buying him out?
Yep.
Okay, so here's the thing that really is really sad. So your dad's doing $1 a year,
Mm-hmm.
and he's been doing $1 a year, last 10 years, and then the son comes in and joins the team, and after 3 or 4 years, now it's doing $1.50. And now his dad's getting ready to retire, has it appraised, and it comes back as $1.50. And the son's like,
He built that.
dude, I built that 50. And then you say the same thing. Did you get a prenup with your boy, your husband? Yeah, but you met him in high school?
Well, first year in college.
Okay, first year in college. I met my boy's mother, my ex, 10 minutes before first day of high school. And so, then married 10 years later, had these kids. No, I don't know any dentist that have a prenup. And so then you go work with your dad, and she's been working there 5 years. And I said, well, do you have anything in writing? No. And then, of course, you go to Judge Wapner, and anybody who grew up on Judge Wapner, the only thing Judge Wapner says is, okay, I heard show me your receipts. Then some dumbass like, well, I don't have any receipts. You just do. But Judge Wapner was like, you don't have any receipts. So how do you broach that? I mean, you and me have never had a prenup. How do you?
You have
an
you have an associate agreement, then you have a buy-in agreement, and
you did that with your dad?
Oh yes, and Heidi. Mm-hmm.
But you didn't do a prenup with your husband? Oh, he must be a looker. Is he a good looker?
He's a lucky guy.
Lucky or a looker? He must have been a good looker. But so you didn't do that in marriage, but you did that with your own father?
Absolutely.
Where did you find that wisdom?
Collier Sarner was a big influence in my dad's career.
Who is this?
Collier Sarner. So they advise dentists, and we still get their newsletter. And
Collier Sarner.
Collier, Collier, Sarner. So Sarner was the original.
Sarner?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
we'll see if
and now Collier's son is a big part of the company, and we went to transition seminars. Used the well-known Kevin Shea in Minneapolis to write up the documents. Our senior year in dental school, the
Brandon Collier. That's the son or the dad?
Brandon Collier is the son. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, I'm so He was episode 1050. I don't associate the sound of the name with the name, but the face.
The Minnesota.
Yeah, the minute the minute I saw his face, like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
but yeah.
So you just have to you need a good team of advisors. And so we've used 5 different practice advisors over my 23 years now of practicing, and you need good.
Okay, what she just said was so damn profound. Everybody I know that's doing, one definitely 3 to 5 million out of one location, they brought in a different practice management consultant every 1 or 2 or 3 years, their whole career. It's the only investment necessarily. Like, do you know how many? Oh well, I'll give you some hard data. Rick Workman of Heartland has acquired over 1,000 practices. Out of all those 1,000 practices, about a ton of them had CAD cams, Xerox Corona CAD cams. Guess how many of them were being used at the time they bought the office? 1,000 offices. 1. I mean, you go buy a $50,000 YAG laser. That might have been before your time, but it was a $50,000 coat rack a year later. And the only investment I've ever seen where I can say, okay, you spent $1 and you got your dollar back plus a nickel, dime, or a quarter. It's always a consultant. It's always a consultant. So you had 5. So you did Collier Associates. Who were the other 4?
So we've done Bill Rossi.
Oh my God,
Judy
the bald
K.
beauty. What's the other one? Judy K?
Judy K. Before me, he used Bob Propstel. So that's Accelerated Practice Solutions.
What's his name?
Bob Propstel. But that Accelerated Business Solutions. That was before I joined in 97. Now we're using Heritage Investors, Justin Goodbridge.
You're using, say that last one again?
So Heritage Investors, Justin Goodbread, and David Kent. So David Kent is advising our office manager, and Justin Goodbread is the financial advisor. And his philosophy is having your personal life together with your partner being advised on and the business. So you bring so you don't have 2 different advisors for the partners. You have 1 advisor for the partners. Get your personal life figured out, get your business figured out.
So is that the guy there, right there?
Yep.
Oh my God.
Right? Yeah.
He looks like a happy.
He just came up and so they're out of Tennessee.
Tennessee,
Mm-hmm.
which is really going to be a huge dental.
With Nashville. And
oh my God, Smiles Direct Club. I mean, there's just so many people.
And then Chris Mahan is our accountant. I think you interviewed him not too
Chris
long
Mahan.
ago. Mahan and Associates.
Out of Nashville.
Yep.
Is it Mahan or Mayhem? The Allstate commercial.
Yep.
So, why do you think that a dentist, you say to them, well, what's your 30, 60, 90 account receivables? Doesn't know. Well, you work hard and you're a hard working man. You're not afraid of hard work and you're a doctor in America. Are you rich? He's broke. Well, you've been divorced 3 times? No, same way. And you say, well, have you, thought about getting a consultant? And you look at his deal and he's kind of like 1,400 TMJ classes and he's like an occlusion freak. And then I'm looking at his sales. I'm like, oh, this TMJ, I know it's going to be like a quarter of his revenue or half of his revenue. It's like, okay, I can't even find it on your revenue. You know what I mean? Why do you think they always will take 40 TMJ classes and still not know what their overhead is and get a business consultant? And whereas you didn't have that problem. Why do you think that is?
Oh, I think I had a good mentor. My dad had advisors. I saw the value. When my dad was transitioning out, we used Jay White. That was another advisor. And
just good
good advisors. Mentors.
Mm-hmm.
I do, yeah, mentors. And then being part of study clubs too are so important. You need to be connected with people in your industry. that have the same passion, because otherwise you're in your little dental island in your practice. You need to be able to have a team of colleagues too.
Yeah, I like, and a lot of them would change.
So Rossi and White, I mean, they were the big ones now.
Is Bob Rossi, seriously, is
Bill?
that the
Yeah.
most handsome guy you've ever seen in life? Is
He's
it?
got best hairdo.
I love them because you know, when you grew up in Kansas, you know, it's like when it comes to business, only 15% of Americans work for a publicly traded company, but it's like 100% of the news. When you grow up in Kansas, it's either, you know, the Yankees or the California. It's never the flyover states. And a lot of the things that that work in Key Biscayne, Florida, and Beverly Hills, and it just doesn't resonate in Minnesota. And then you got a guy like Bill Rossi, who, I mean, he's probably consulted with 1 out of every 3 dentists in Minnesota. I mean, he just does Minnesota. And then even, and you're sitting there thinking, okay, like one, and I saw that strategy, you know, there's a macro strategy, like Glidewell's done. They have sold something every month to 5% of every dentist in America, you know, 1 out of 20. But there was Lord's Studio in Wisconsin, Green Bay. Rennie Schellner had that Lord's dental studio, and they were a monster lab. No customers outside of Minnesota. I mean, it's like 1 in 3 dentists in Minnesota went there. And then you went to Arkansas. They had Green Lab, same thing. And I always tell people and consultants, but I think they're embarrassed. They're like, well, I don't want to have Shirley from my town. She's going to tell everybody that I, you know, it was a disaster. And they want to go get someone from clear across the country. I'm like, dude, this girl only does Oklahoma and she's done it for 20 years. What would you say to, I mean, like, I'm sitting there thinking in Minnesota, like, I've always thought in Minnesota, like, who the hell wouldn't get Rossi to come in and say, I mean, like your insurance deals, you know, on Dental Town, someone might said, oh, we renegotiate our PPO fees. Okay, well, you ain't in Minnesota, you know? And, you know, I don't care what they did in Honolulu and LA. And so Bill Rossi, I mean, it's to the point where, I mean, so that's all he does. He could look at all your insurance deals and say, okay, well, I do know that everybody who's on these 3 have higher overhead, or I mean that's all they do. Why do you think 2 out of 3 dentists in Minnesota would not want that? Even though that whatever they gave him, they get their dollar back and a nickel or a dime more in a year.
Because I don't think they see that. I don't think they see the value that they're going to get their dollar back.
So they don't believe.
So they're cheap.
So they're. You think they're cheap, or they don't believe it?
Yeah, I don't think they want to spend the money on the advisor. They don't forecast that you will get that money back. They can do it themselves.
That really has blows my mind. So I want to ask you another, and this is kind of personal. And if I get too personal, feel free to slap me. 50% of marriages end in divorce. And you always hear all these people saying, oh, I want a partner. And they don't even date, or they come in there and they met on whatever. And I just sit there and say, well, this is a huge relationship thing. I mean, you should approach this like marriage. I mean, do you trust this person? Like how many times have I seen this with dentist partner? Like the guy's partner, you know, they're telling me in the 80s that is his partner, he's having an affair on his wife. I'm like, okay, so that's what he does with his wife. And you don't think he's gonna do that to you? And then 5-10 years later, that little affair on his wife shows up on the affair on the dentist. My dad, you know, it was so sad, but he had partners, and his best friend started in business, and he didn't even catch it. You know who caught it? You're never going to believe this. This is Kansas. The IRS thought something was wrong, turned it over to the Kansas Bureau of Investigation, and the KBI caught my dad's partner embezzling from him and went to Leavenworth. And it just shattered my dad, because, I mean, my God, if, you know, if if everybody's a hero or a villain. Well, you don't want your hero to embezzle from you. You want the villain, that bad guy with a cape that only comes out at night with bat feathers. I think it's so cute in Christianity where all the good angels have bird wings who fly in the day. Then all the bad devils have bat wings that only come out at night. You want the guy embezzling from you to have bat wings, so I if I learned anything from my dad, it was I was going to own my land and building because he had that issue where landlords screw him. I read 100 autobiographies of all the great Sam and Helen Walton. The first successful Walmart they were doing, it was in a lease building, and he was trying to renew his lease, and the guy's like, "Oh, I'll get around to it. I'll get around to it. I'll get around to it." And right when that expired, his landlord opened up the same Walmart across the street, stealing all of his ideas. And Sam and Helen are just like, "Oh my God, we'll never, ever rent again." But anyway, I never had a partner. I had no problem paying out a divorce because, as opposed to what? Stay partners? I don't want a partner. And you married this guy, and you didn't have a prenup, but then you went to your dad and you got a prenup, and now you got married again. You married a Heidi in a dental partnership. What advice do you give to those little kids? Because here's what you're talking about. When I go into those schools, AT Still in Mesa, and you always see these two little giggling girls, and they're like, "Yeah, we're going to partner together, and she's going to go blood and guts and do implants, and I'm going to go soft and pretty and doing clear liners, and we're just going to be happy and all that stuff." Looking back after, you've lived half a century. When she was born, the Dead Sea was merely just sick. And what advice would you give those two little girls giggling in class and they're going to be partners?
Have your legal documents ready to go. Have a lot of communication. Do your CE together, and be very honest with each other. You are in a work marriage, and you have to stay connected.
A work marriage,
or my work wife. Yeah.
So, a work wife or a platonic marriage. What was that show? The prison show with what was the big famous prison show with that guy that I met? Morgan Freeman.
Oh, there's Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, Shawshank.
Oh, that's a great movie.
Yeah, I lectured at the Memphis Dental Association, and that night we drove an hour out of town to his restaurant. And they could say Morgan Freeman. I was thinking of some blonde chick. Who was I thinking of? Morgan Fairchild, I was thinking of some blonde chick that looked like you. And then they say he's here. I said he. I go where? And they go where? He's right there. And then I finally realized that movie star guy. But I said to him, I'm not a movie guy. I'm a book guy. I can't think of 10 movies in my life that I ever watched twice. But one of them was yours, that Shawshank Redemption. I said, why do you think that? Why do you think that was so amazing? He said, that was the easiest decision I ever saw. He says, I read the script and I said, oh my God, it's a platonic love story between two boys. I've never even seen a plot like that. And I told my producer, I said, a platonic love story between two guys. I don't care if it's in a prison or island. This is so cool. And that's really what you have. You have a platonic love life, love affair.
Thought of it that way. Mm-hmm.
With a female dentist. So you guys have a platonic love affair marriage. And so how do you how should those kids in dental school giggling when, it's funny when you're holding her hair and she's throwing up at 1:00 in the morning, but what I saw the difference in divorce and partner problems over the years that, at the divorce stuff, whatever your spouse is doing, it's really not in your face 24 hours a day or, whatever. But when you got a partner that's leaving all the margins open and the crowns don't fit, and it's just Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, this partner's in your face. And it's just, and then when you divorce with the kids, you have kids, family, everybody's trying to make this be as sweet as possible. But now when you marry a dentist, I mean, I've routinely seen $600,000 to $1 million in legal fees as they go to war with each other, you know? So so you're saying get legal fees. Any other advice in the dating thing or any character or, how would you, I mean, because my dad always told me, he goes, dude, if he's cheating on his wife, he's cheating on you.
100%.
You believe that 100%?
I believe that 100%. And
What
I think
other-
too, if you don't agree with their quality of dentistry, their open margins, and then you end it. You don't get into a legal
Yeah, but
relationship.
I leave the margins open so they can get in there and clean.
Yeah, right.
They
Yeah.
How else?
But I
they
mean,
gonna
she
do it?
practiced with us for a year as an associate, and then
You said she practiced with us, so your dad was still there.
Yeah.
When she started.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So your dad kind of signed off on her too.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We actually became three-way partners.
But so it
was a number of years that she was, our associate, and we knew the quality of dentistry and her values. She's a blessing. We have a great relationship, and we were the giggling girls that said we could work together and we could
in dental school
and the water ski show.
But water ski was in college. Oh, this was after dental school.
I was in the.
Well, when did
I
you
met
meet
her. I met her when I was in dental school and she was in undergrad. There's 6 years between us.
Okay.
So she was thinking medicine or aviation. So that's where her parents
And
were
you
in.
said flying a plane too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a lot of similar hobbies and interests too. Travel and obviously water skiing. So I said, why don't you check out dentistry? And she came to the dental school and observed and changed her degree to pre-dental.
So you changed your degree to pre-dental. You were her mentor. She followed you.
I think a lot of dentists become a dentist because they know
now, which
someone
one's her?
in the industry. There she is.
There she is?
Yep.
There she is. And so there's two kind of strategies in a partner. One is there's 168 hours in a week. The average dentist open 32 hours a week. So you're not even using your fixed capital expenses, not even 20% of the week. It's like 19% of the week. So 4 out of 5 hours, you're not using your rent, mortgage, equipment, bill out, computer, insurance. And then you look at the fact that 8.5% of emergency room visits are odontogenic in origin. So some people take a partner and say, okay, I'll do 7 to 1 Monday through Thursday, and you come in and do 1 to 8 p.m. So they double the hours. So they say, okay, we're going to have 32 hours twice, and we'll cover 64 hours. The only 3 publicly traded dental DSOs in the world are 7 to 7 days a week. So then there's that, or the other strategy. I'll do blood and guts. I'll do all the extractions, endo, and place implants, and you do all the bleaching, bonding, veneers, and aligners. Did you do any of those 2 strategies, or what would you say your strategy was when you doubled, your dental supply? What was the strategy there?
So the strategy with my dad when he was there, or the 3 of us, is we were working 5 days a week, and we'd have 2 on each day. And then
when it was just you and your dad, or are you talking about the 3 or the 2?
The 2 of us would do. So we did 8 doctor days a week.
8 and explain that.
So I was doing evening, and then he was doing Monday through Thursday. So I was doing Monday night, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Then Heidi joined. Then we had 2 doctors on every day. So
you're mostly overlapping with her.
Mm-hmm.
So
now, though, with our kids and family, and when my dad retired, we actually went to 3 days a week each, and we overlap on Thursdays.
So what are your? Oh, let's fly on your website. So what are your?
And we cut Monday nights too. So.
Okay, so your Monday 7 to 3:30, Tuesday 8 to 5, Wednesday 8 to 5, Thursday 7 to 4, Friday 7 to 2. So 7 to 3, 8 to 5, 8 to 5.
So Thursdays is the only day that we're there together. Because we're only doing 3 days each now.
So you're only doing 3 days each.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So true or false? If I say something sexist, crazy, and nuts, call me on it. it it seems like, well, we know that of the 3 publicly traded DSOs, that 2 out of 3 of their dentists are women. We know in the United States, DSOs, that we keep seeing the same thing. It's about 2/3 women. Um, the women, it's tough. I grew up with 5 sisters, and I'm very aware of sexism because I found it very confusing because they were my 5 sisters. My brother wasn't born until I was 17, through the luxury of Catholic birth control, and the rhythm just didn't work out. And my gosh, like I could swim in the river, and my sisters couldn't go within 10 feet. My mom ironed patches on my jeans and put them in dresses. If they got their dress soiled, they were in trouble. But she was pre-ironing patches on the outside of my jeans. And and a lot of them are in school, thinking, all species that divide up male, female, they mix gametes, but the women are the ones that incubate the gamete. So they're, it's very different than a male who just projects the gamete. They're going to catch it and incubate it for 9 months. And they're sitting there in dental school and they're thinking, well, I want to be the best mom in the world. I want to get an A in mom. But I love dentistry. I want to get an A in dentistry. And then they're like, well, if I want to get an A in mom, would it be better if I just took dentistry and just took a job at a DSO?
Easier.
Easier? Or would I be a better mom if I own my own practice? You've incubated 2 children. And you've lived since the Dead Sea caught a fever. Please tell them, how do you wrestle that issue that I want to be a great mom and a great dentist in the modern business of dentistry world? How did you wrestle that issue?
I cut back my hours when the kids needed me. So 3 days a week I'm in clinic, and 2 days I'm available working on the business and available to be a mom. So I needed a partner to have the balance, but I did not want to work for someone else. So I did not want to be in a DSO because the continuity of making my own decisions and autonomy, very, very important to me. So now as dentistry is evolving with the DSOs and buying practices, I'm in a quandary on how I move forward. Bring on another partner? Sell out? I don't know.
So does your work wife, I love that. I've never heard of work wife. I hope she doesn't beat the crap out of me when she meet Heidi someday. But is Heidi in the same dilemma? Is she a mom with 2 kids and a husband too?
Yeah, she has 1 boy.
1 boy.
Mm-hmm. And she loves that schedule too. That's where our values are very aligned. That
well, for me, I always thought that I don't like the term DSO because number one, it doesn't even mean anything. It starts out, you're a solo practice like your dad, and then one day you add a partner. I added a partner the first year I graduated because I just thought it was just shock going from 120 classmates to all by yourself.
mm-hmm.
I was lonely. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
where's my homie? And I was so young and dumb. I got someone just as young as me. I should have got someone like your dad who was, older, been around the block 50 times, but it was about fun. And over the last 3 decades, it seems like the people in group, they're always happier than the people in solo. If someone's eating Vicodin and drinking Listerine and just completely fell off the cliff, the staff doesn't know what to do. They're not going to stand up to him. He's the only doctor. He's the boss. And that's what I call economic violence, where you're tolerating this doctor showing up drunk, but I need my job. And I worked for Dr. Great for 10 years and I don't know what to do, but I'll tell you what, this town's had at least 1 to 3 suicides a year the whole 30 years. And I cannot tell you how many times I've been at a funeral and the wife, stay-at-home mom, with 4 kids, the receptionist, the hygienist said, how many times did we walk in there and he was on nitrous? How many prescriptions did we fill? Why didn't we do something? And they were all scared. And I'm sitting there thinking, and the worst part is Doc's 6 feet underground. But in a group practice, it's that other dentist says, Come on, man. That's an open margin. If you're not going to redo it, I'm going to do it for you, and I'm going to adjust your production and take it over. Or when it's a group, I mean, because I see all that all that opium stuff. There's a what is it? There's one in the news today, and I don't in fact, I think I'm even gonna. I used to post them on Dental Town, just thinking that if some guy's fighting this to see how bad it's gonna end. You know what I mean? So I used to post all the arrest for the deal. But let me just see this one. I wanna Kentucky dentist accused of prescribing opioids. Bloody, 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 bloody. He prescribed 625 hydrocodone pills and 175 oxycodone pills while suspended, and now he's looking at 20 years in jail. Nice. So if he was an alcoholic, would he be looking at 20 years in jail? You know what I mean? So the mob, I mean, it's like I lost Prince because he couldn't go. The greatest thing that ever came out of Minnesota, besides you,
And Prince, yes.
was Prince,
Love Prince.
who died without a will and was addicted to Vicodin and had a jet. And why is he dead? Because your mob treats it as a religious moral issue, put him in a jail, create prison jobs, and it's a medical issue. And I say legalize everything so that you don't have this shit going on. So you don't have Prince dying because he can't get it at Walgreens, so he has to go buy it from somebody who made it in a bathtub. And then we lose Prince. And we used to have that problem with alcohol where the 18th Amendment illegalized it, and then the 21st Amendment, which is so funny because it's 18 and 21, right?
Yeah,
At 18,
the
you could drink
age.
beer, but at 21, you could drink the hard stuff in Kansas. Or at 18, you could drink 3.2% beer, but you had to be 21 to get 6.0% Coors beer.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's all crazy because people don't mind their own freaking business. I don't care if you're home drinking beer in your underwear. I really don't. But I think it's really bad when the government illegalized it, and then they were going blind in Tennessee and Kentucky because people were making their bathtub. And when they say all the people going blind and all this stuff, they said, you know what? Let's treat this differently. But the mob, they're like, but we like to arrest people and shoot them and put them in cages. And we just really like kidnapping and shooting people. And that's something that America's been at war every year, but 20 years of its existence. You have 600 military bases around the world. What the shit have you been doing in Afghanistan for 19 years? And this guy, a sick doctor's looking at 20 years. I mean, it's just criminal. But here's my point. He can't do that in group practice because his buddies would just call the board. And when I got here in 87, the board was a moral church deal and you were going to be spanked and punished. And then it turned into this is actually a disease model. And we need to put you in a program. We need to, have you peanut cup for 5 years. And they call every day and I guess there's like 5 colors or something. Say your color is yellow and you call it and they say purple. And you're like, okay, I'm good. But if they say your color, you got to you got to drop a deal off it. That's what would rehabilitate this guy. What is putting him in a cage? And then the 20 years in prison, what is that going to cost you and me? What are we going to pay for that? $40,000, $50,000 a year. So it's just a lose, 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 lose situation. But I think that when I go into group, and here's the other thing I love about group. How many times does this happen where you're on a root canal, it's an hour later, and you're like, I know there's a MB2 somewhere and you can't find it. And finally you just give up and you go in the break room and you tell the other two dentists, man, I cannot find the MB2. And they just immediately, they're like that, but it's all fresh eyes, whatever. And they look at it, take a 6 file and just stick it right in it. And you're like, root tip, same thing. It's just something you're looking at. It's tunnel vision. You don't get it, but having a buddy or a friend, they're happier, they're healthier. So then you get to that. And then it's just like, okay, well, let's do another location. Now you're in a town of 65,000. This is where the only place I've seen DSOs just crushing now. What I don't like about DSOs is, well, number one, I don't think it should be legal for a non-dentist owned a dental office.
Agree.
I'm going to turn 59 this year. My dad died at 61 and both of my grandfathers died at 61. And I've got 6 grandchildren. And if all the dental offices are bought by Wall Street, or say, remember back in the old day when Cigna was going out and opening up their own dental offices, and out here it was Herb Kaufman was running them. He's now at the dental school. It's like, well, if my little Taylor Marie needs a dentist, and this one has to do what Wall Street says, and this one has to do what insurance says, well, where can she go to the dentist? I mean, is she gonna have to go to Mexico? I mean, is she gonna have to go down there? I mean, I want my grandbabies to go to a dentist, and I don't want Wall Street and Delta telling them what to do. They're not dentists. And so I'm very, very, very stuck on that. And, but the DSOs, in a town like yours, 65,000. So Google and Facebook, uh, Google is owned by Alphabet. They own YouTube and the Google search, and then Facebook. They've sucked out 80% of the advertising dollars over their last, decade. So what the advantage of that is, the cost of radio and television, and newspaper has gone to zero. So you're at a town of 65,000, let's say. Are you on the north, south, east, west?
We're right in the center, heart of the
Ah,
city.
okay. So then what they do is they'll say, well, maybe an example of 250,000 is better. Or I don't really know your, but here's where I've seen it, where say it was a town of like 150, 200,000, and they're on the south side. They'll say, well, you know what? Half of our advertising, patients will only drive in the city maybe 5, 6, 7 miles max to come see you. Now in the rural, they'll drive an hour because that's what they do. They drive an hour into town, but in the deal, they won't. So they'll say, well, let's get a north, south, east, west. And then we can have one flat level of management. And these DSOs, what do they provide? They provide what the problem is, HR, marketing, and accounting, finance, and consulting, whatever, systems. And with one flat layer, I mean, I've seen one guy go to north, south, east, west, and the smartest ones do it like Wall Street does, merger and acquisition. They're in a town of 65,000, and now in that town of 65,000, would every single person have no problem driving to any dental office in that town? Or is there rivers and barriers and things where people would say, well, I'm not going to drive all the way to the other side? Or is that all the way to the other side not really?
Not a big deal.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
So then do you have
So they come in from the suburbs,
so do
from
you
the
have
little cities
um
around too.
but the bottom line is, they'll get a north, south, east, west. But the smartest ones next is back to yours, is the mergers and acquisitions. They'll see some old man like your dad, and he's retiring, and they're like, okay, so here's the deal. You could buy him out. Say the city had 6 dentists and he's for sale. And you could buy that out and move it into yours, versus the alternative that some young, hot athlete, barefoot skier, enough energy for 9 people, comes in at age 25 and works her ass off till 65. You don't want that. Every time I've seen an office where they're doing $3 or $4 million a year, I said, how the hell did you get to $4 million in this little nothing town? You're in the middle of nowhere. He goes, well, I got here, 30 years ago, and there was 8 of us. And every time some old man retired, they knew I'd buy their charts. And then that guy that sold out, half of them 1 year home with their wife, they found out that, well, now she wants a new car. Well, now she wants to upgrade the shed. Now she wants a new boat. And so they think, oh, yeah, I'm retiring at 65. And you said your dad did it successfully. Half of them don't do it successfully. Half of them are bored to tears or want more money, and they stay on. They just linger on a day a week, 2 half days a week. I know one practice where you can't even make this up. The dentist is so old that they took away his drill. But so many of these old people that have been with him forever, they come in and he's a doctor and he looks at it and he says it's this or that or this or that. Then, I mean, you're talking 80 to 90 years old. There's a guy I met in Los Angeles. This is the craziest. He thinks he's the only surviving dentist from the Holocaust, the Auschwitz. He's 99. And his question to me in seminars, should he get a CBCT? And I'm like, dude, are you really 99? And then he showed me his tat. I said, "You survived Auschwitz and I mean, he just loves it. I mean, he doesn't want to go. So anyway, so mergers and acquisitions if I was in a town of 65, I would go have well, number one, the best marketing in those towns is what I did. Like you talk about Awatuki, this is 2021. In the last 2 years, 100% of the chiropractors have been in my house. 100% of the naturopaths. 100% of the now MDs are busy people, and that's going to be one or two. You know what I mean? Every one of the Walgreens pharmacists, I learned. I mean, the best marketing is word of mouth referral, and these young millennial people, they're going to build their whole practice on Instagram and Pinterest. And it's like, well, I do a movie every day on Instagram. Okay, my mom doesn't even know what you're talking about. And what are you going to do? Oh, I'm going to place implants. Yeah, all the old elderly people that need all on four. Yeah, they're on Instagram. I mean, I wouldn't even know how to go to your Instagram story. And I own a tech company. But the best way, I'll never forget, it was in 87. This guy came in and I said, well, thanks for coming here. Why did you just move to Phoenix? Why, how'd you pick me? He goes, well, no, I went over to Walgreens and I said, I got a toothache. Should I get that Oragel or Bufferin or what do you recommend? And that guy said, I recommend you go over and see Howard. And I thought, that son of a gun. And I said, Brad, did you just refer this guy over here? And he said, yeah. I said, Friday night, steaks at my house, and it was it's get out there and run for mayor. We only have 3 urgent cares. Now, the periodontist are bringing us cookies and gifts and all that stuff. When I walk into any urgent care in Awatuki, they all know it's Howard. I've taken them so many cakes and candies and this and that because I know 8.5% of their deals are odontogenic. So in a 65,000 town, you can do $3 to $4 million a year if you could also win the town's election for mayor. Now, I don't want to be the mayor, and I've never ran for any political office, but if you get out there and press the flesh, like Awatuki, we only have one parade a year, and it's the Easter parade. We all get out there, we build a float. In my earlier days, I would unicycle down the road, but now it scares the children. The parents think I'm going to fall off the unicorn and kill someone. My gosh, but when you get that. So if I was in a town of 65, I'd be wine dining every dentist in there and buying them out as they go. And then if there's 10 people in there now, and in 10 years from now there's only 5 dentists and they all work in your building, you just keep folding them in. And then I don't know the surrounding towns or whatever, but let's say the town was 250. Once they get to a north, south, east, west, then they start a centralized deal. Which I've been doing. I mean, we have a call center now for our dental office. We have an insurance Kalani that does this, and they can do other people, things like that. But what those DSOs provide in accounting, HR, bulk buying supplies is really, really good. Where they go off the deep end, in my opinion, and I tell them this in my favor. We're still, Rick Workman and I and Steve Thorne will still have a beer together and have a ball, but we gentlemen can disagree, is that when they come and then they buy out that DSO, they add another 17% cost on the top of that. Well, shit, my lab and supplies ain't 17%. What could you do for me at that level that would be that worthy? I mean, what, you're going to save me some money on whatever? I mean, dude, you're taking 17. And then the old dentists like me and your dad are on Twitter. The younger dentists are on Instagram, the people who like archived posts instead of just the last in, first out entertainment deal. But people who have a specific problem, like I broke a file, they go to Dental Town because there's 6,060,646 posts by 259,000 dentists. They're archived. And you do a search, like if I go to message board and I type in MB2, and it will pull up look at 1,200 different threads discussing the MB2. I mean, if you have a question that hasn't been asked on Dental Town, then it must be somebody's new album or something. It can't be a dental deal. But those people make a mess. So if an exit strategy like you, I would think that your exit strategy, I mean, if you're 50 and you start thinking in your time, first of all, you're probably gonna live to be 85 if you're a barefoot skier. It reminds me of another girl. When I got to down here, there was a 85-year-old Jewish lady who owned 4 houses. And I met her and I said, so what's her story? And they said, well, she came here from Germany. She snuck out of Germany in like 36, 37, 38. And she got here. And of course, the state boards is what has ruined all of healthcare in America. The only reason you have poor people that can't have access to care is because you won't let any dentist from Mexico come up here and practice. And if they do, you kidnap them, put them in a cage, arrest them, torture them, separate them from their children. I mean, just evil shit. And then they say, well, and then Bernie Sanders like, well, they don't have any dentistry there. Yeah, because you're the mafia and you will kidnap and arrest anybody that does. So what the government always does, they just break everything. They come up and they break your legs. And they're like, well, Bernie and AOC want to offer you a wheelchair on our behalf. It's like, well, dude, you're the one who broke my legs. And there was never a question with access to care in any country on earth until they set up the state boards and got rid of any foreign competition. And if there was no foreign competition in cars, think how shitty Chrysler and Ford would be. So she came here from Germany, where they make Mercedes, Benz, and Volvo. She came to the land of Chrysler, Pontiac, and Dodge Ford. And they said, well, we don't accept your license because we're from the land of Chrysler and you're from the land of that one. Have you ever seen that one picture where it's one graduating class from a private religious Jewish school, and those 20 students, Einstein, Niels Bohr, Madame Curie, the only person who was a woman who got a Nobel Prize, and the only scientist who got 2 Nobel Prizes. I mean, I just love that chick. Just unbelievable. All from that one class private school that flies in the face everything they taught you. And she said she cried and cried and cried because she's already married. She had kids. They came with a shirt off their back. She couldn't go back to school so that your schools could profit. Yeah, your 1.9 trillion in student loans is all about the school. The kids just some indentured servant to pay off the academics. And she said, I went and got a lawyer, and he said, no, you can't practice, but here's the loophole. Since you're in Arizona and you're a dentist, you can own a dental office. And she said, Howard, she said, I was handcuffed behind my back and I didn't appreciate it. I didn't recognize the beauty of it. But if I would have spent all my time drilling, filling, and billing, I probably would have retired at 65 like the most of them and been out of money by now. But since I couldn't practice, since those bastards wouldn't let me practice, and she said, I saw your American dentistry. I was not impressed. She goes, now I developed all the management. And she had a north, south, east, and west, each doing $2.5 million a year. She had a limo driver full time that just drove around. She was so old, you could tell she was right-handed because her lipstick started here and it like went up to there and then came back down. And you just look at it and go, are you right-handed? She was so smart and she's adorable. And I think that's the perfect exit strategy, because as you get older, your body starts to slow down. I mean, when I used to work, when I owned my office, I worked 7 to 7, 7 days a week until the preacher next door, Don Snyder at the Lutheran Church, who just passed away about a year ago. He came over and he said he wanted to talk to me, and he sat me down. And he said, we don't like that you work on the Sabbath. And then he explained to me the Muslims don't work Friday, the Jews don't work Saturday. And he just thought that was a bad idea. And I thought to myself, well, shit, I really don't want to work 7 days a week. But I was so young back then that the most shocking thing to me is when they come up and they go, well, it's past 7. I'm like, what? It's past 7? And I didn't have a lunch. It's like 7 to 7. And your sister's like, it's actually 8. And, you can't do that at 59. You can't do that. I was having dinner last night with Jay Geyer, and we were laughing. He was in town lecturing, and when we go to dinner, and he said, yeah, the hardest thing about after a day lecturing is, your feet are sore. And I was looking at his feet, and he's still wearing those hard rock dress shoes. And I'm like, dude, when I turned 50, I switched to Asics and New Balance. And when people said to me, "Are you going to lecture in in tennis shoes?" I said, "Well, I can do it barefoot if you want me to, but I'm not going to wear rocks on my feet." And all that stuff. And you just slowly start morphing. I mean, the systems are simple. And the marketing, I mean, when you go north, south, east, west, you can get a billboard for nothing. It used to be a big amount of money, but Facebook, Google sucked it all out. Billboards are 1/5 the price today as they were 10 years ago. Newspaper ads, full page newspaper ads. Look at Clear Choice. Clear Choice, they said in every city they're at, they can get 30-minute infomercials for $30. It might be at 2:00 in the morning or on some channel you've never heard of, but if you just keep throwing out these half-hour infomercials about your office on all these channels with a billboard, with newspaper, you can get your dollar cost averaging for a new patient head down to $20. Whereas now on Facebook marketing and things like that, a lot of people are paying $250 a head. So you have all these scales of economy. And then every year you get older and you lose more eye-hand coordination and vision and things like that. And you just keep slowing down. That's when you actually reach your prime, because what the young kids can't do is they can't talk to people or sell dentistry. And the big ones that were doing 4 or 5 million was because the old guy could have been the mayor of the town. Everybody respected him. You're selling the invisible. When you say your daughter has 4 cavities and needs braces, I mean, the mom's hoping you're not a sociopath. She's like, is he a sociopath, a psychopath? Or would I vote for her for mayor? Yeah, I trust this girl. She's on all these committees. And that person just does all the exams and all the diagnosis and treatment plan, and then throws them back to the youngins to do the root canals. It's like when I used to do case dentistry where I'd sell a big case and they come in on the weekend and you just have an anesthesiologist come in. I mean, I'm not going to do the anesthesiologist because if it goes south, it's just going to wipe you out emotionally. I've only had a couple of friends that lost a patient. And one of my best friends, he never smiled again about dentistry until he died. He never, ever, the thing that was his whole world, it was so sad. And it was because he pulled a canine and he didn't put him on antibiotics. And 2 days later, she was in the emergency room because that Bermuda Triangle, and it went back in the brain and killed him. And everybody's like, and he just pulled an infected canine and forgot about the antibiotics, and they died, and it was a trial, and it was ugly and gross, and shit happens, and it just is what it is. I mean, dentists can make a mistake. A lot of people are shocked that I can swim because they assume when I dive in the water, I would just hit the top and then walk on top of the water, and I actually sink to the bottom and drown. But dentists make mistakes. I mean, dentists make mistakes, and that's why you have insurance. When my kids stacked the car, I never gave a shit that they stacked the car. I just want to know, is anybody hurt? And whatever the money was, it's like, well, we have insurance. Same thing about cybersecurity. I don't care if I get hacked into. I mean, I got a policy. All I want to know is if I'm hacked in and everything is horrible, is it covered? And I malpractice. And if you make a mistake like that, shit happens. But my gosh, that old guy was the one who wouldn't say, well, you have, let me show you the x-ray. You have an interproximal lesion on number 30, and that'll need an MO, and the one in front of it will need an MOD, and then this one will need a RCT. And you look at the treatment plan acceptance rate, and it's zilch. And then there's that guy that'll can come in there and say, well, you're looking good. You only got 3 cavities, and you've never had a cavity where you brush. It's always a flossing cavity, and you don't floss more than anybody in this town because it's you. But other than 3 flossing cavities, you're looking good. And in fact, I think Shirley can do it right now. And I would do it right now because you haven't been in here in 3 years. And if you walk out that door, those 3 little low-cost fillings, you'll be back, but it'll be a toothache. And it'll be a high-cost root canal and a crown. And Megan can surely do those now. And I mean, they got the people skills. In fact, the first DSO in this town was Mort Copenhaver. And that was his business model where they would start up a dental office and they get 4 dentists in there. And if you knew the difference between a cosine, a tangent, and could do algebra in your head, you were going to do the dentistry. But that guy that made C's in the class that could actually talk and had a personality and everybody liked, that was just the diagnosis and a treatment planner. And it was usually the oldest dentist, and it was usually the least high quality dentist. And it was usually the guy in the back of the class that had all the C's, but they could talk to people. And they would sell that dentistry all day long, and the guys in the back. And then the only problem with that is if the guy in the back says, well, you said there's 4 cavities. I only see 3. Well, that's when democracy comes in, and we do it with the hygienist too. It's like, okay, well, I said 4, you said 3. There's no right or it's data driven. There's 2 other doctors and 3 other hygienists. Bring in the third party, and we do it in front of the patient. We do it in front of nothing secretive or whatever. And the third one would say, that's a cavity. And then what I would do is when I drilled into it, and, they're like, it's like one person said it wasn't even a cavity, it was a watch. And then you drop into it and it's mush. Then you stop, and then you go back and get her, say, come here, Missy. I want you to see this. Watch. Because I got a number 4 round bird taking out oatmeal. But hey, I just want to tell you this, that takes guts to come on a show. First one since the pandemic. I couldn't have had a more fun guest. Thank you for being a role model for these young women dentists, for being transparent to talk about difficult subjects, partnerships. Heidi, who's going to hit me more, your dad, your husband, or Heidi? Which one am I cruising for a bruising with?
They're all nonviolent.
They're all nonviolent. But man, thanks for coming in. Thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for everything you do. And man, you're so competitive and you're so successful at 50. It'll be really interesting. But one last thing, Kyle, is here's what I'll stick to. I never did the DSO, but I used to do turnkeys. And the turnkey was I'd see girls that were like 5 years out of school, and for some reason they couldn't pull the trigger. So I would go down 5 miles, and I'd get in these offices for no money down. I go in there and say, what do you want for that 1,000 square feet? And they go, $15 square foot. And I say, okay, for $50 square foot for 3 years. And I say, well, I'll give you $20 square foot for 5 years. And the guy'd say, okay, what am I doing with all that extra money? I said, well, my dental office is in Ahwatukee, and here's the blueprints for it. I want you to do the build out. So he'd bid out that exact same plans. It was a 60 wide and 100 long, or I forgot what exactly it was. But it was about 1,200 square feet. And they'd bid out and they'd say, sure. Then I'd go down to Healthco. Are you old enough to remember Healthco? Mm-mm. Okay. It was out of Dallas. I think it got rolled into Patterson. And I go them and they'd load it all up and they'd say, okay, you're going to need about $80,000. And I said, well, I'm not giving you a dime. I want a 5-year payment plan. Last payment I own it. And they'd say, well, we want cash. And I'm like, sure, I know you want cash. But I'm not going to give you cash in a rose garden. The deal is, do you want this deal or not? And they would take it. So then I'd get into a dental office with no money down. And then I would sacrifice my worst receptionist, worst assistant, worst hygienist, put them in there. And then I'd go find a doc and I said, I'll pay you 25% of whatever this office collects. And then they get in there and then they got their independence. She was an associate somewhere and she had her own place. So she was still an associate, but no one was in there. I was a silent owner, never went in and did one filling in any of them ever. And then I would just start doing all the books. And then I'd show I keep Darlene Winger, my banker at Chase, which used to be National Bank, which used to be Bank of Arizona. I mean, they change names every hour. And I'd keep her in the loop. And then one day, it'd usually be about 12 to 24 months, Darlene would call me up and say, well, how are that SBA loans 24 years? And she's crushing it. And I'll do the loan. And I say, okay, do the whole loan. And then I'd walk in there and they'd say, well, hello, you don't come here. Your staff and the 3 staff you got rid of, they have a problem. They called my office manager. It was completely a deal. And I'd have the office manager get a cut of this too, because there was some part of her life where she wanted a 10% deal of this, which is going to be $250, the SBA loan. So that's $25,000 for her, which they think that's a big chunk of change. And I walk in there and say, well, you know what? I just got off the phone with Darlene and she said, if you sign right here, and the monthly payment over 24 years for $250 is a very small payment. It's about size. It was less than the rent on these places. And she said, according to Darlene, if you sign right here, you just got the SBA loan and this whole damn thing is yours. And they would just cry. They would just cry. And I did that because I didn't believe in DSOs. I didn't believe that I would say that, oh, well, every MOD is a crown opportunity. If they got a 5 millimeter pocket, you put a perio chip in there. And it's like, look, dude, look, I'm the dentist and this is my patient. It's called a doctor-patient relationship. And I don't ever want to hear any of that shit from an office manager or some guy that's not seeing the patient or let alone some guy in Wall Street or a dental insurance company. And because I'm old school, I'm just an old fashioned guy that wants his grandkids to go to someone like you, where Taylor and you can have a doctor patient relationship. And if Taylor looks up to you and trusts you in the community, then she'll buy invisible stuff from you. And she thinks, and the courts agreed with this because the courts have all said that if they accuse me of murdering Kyle, I'd be innocent until proven guilty. But if they accuse me of botching Kyle's root canal, I'm guilty till proven innocent. Your diagnosis, treatment plan, and dentistry is wrong until you prove it's right. And the Supreme Court said a century ago that due to the asymmetry of the information here, that doctor is acting as an agent representing that consumer, that patient. You are guilty till proven innocent. That was a century ago. They got it right. My little Taylor, when you say that she has 4 cavities, I mean, she knows the difference between 4 Butterfingers and 4 Milky Ways because dad don't eat Milky Ways. Grandpa don't eat Milky Ways. But she doesn't know if she has 4 cavities or not. And her mom shouldn't know. There's nothing she can Google. The asymmetry, but you know. And then what I trust, dentists always get mad at this part, but it's the most beautiful part of every tribe. Every tribe is the hardest on their own tribe. So when you screw up your dad, ask your dad about that. When you bring in other dentists to look at that treatment plan, those other dentists will be 20 times harder on their dentist than they would if it was a chiropractor or a hunter rifle, some guy growing corn, whatever. But man, when it's your own tribe, every dentist is like looking at that. And it's a great system because every tribe eats their own for breakfast because that's what they know, that's what they do. And so thank you so much for being a role model for these young women dentists. It was just an honor to podcast you.
Thank you for having me on.